by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website, southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate may do so in the following manner by finding the meeting at southborough.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event we are unable to do so, despite the best efforts, we will post this video website on the Southborough website, an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So, welcome. Okay, Brian sent out a copy of the September 2nd minutes. Hope everybody took a look at them. Any questions or comments? Okay. In that case, I will, how do I do this? I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I second.
Excellent. Okay. We have someone joining us today.
Oh, you're muted, Liz. There you
Nick
go.
McCoy is here joining us for this thing. Do we have to let him in?
Yep.
Hey.
Nick, you're here, but you're muted too. There you go.
There we go.
Oh, there you
Can
go.
you hear me?
Gotcha.
Hi.
Hey there.
Hi. I'm Liz. Nice to meet you.
It's good to
Brian,
meet
why don't we
you.
take a
Oh,
I'll take a minute and introduce Nick. Liz, you got muted again. But I'll take a minute and introduce Nick. He's from the Board of Commissioners of Trust Funds. He's the chair. And so, as you know, we made a application to the Metro West Community Fund for some money for taxation aid. So interestingly enough, they came back to, it's kind of funny because I'm on both committees. So they came back and actually asked the trust fund to help, meet the request that that was made by this committee. So, excuse me. So we're all we're kind of similar in the fact that the trust fund committee also assists residents in need, and this committee does the same. It's just a specific segment of residents. So I think the way it would work, and we haven't decided this yet, but I think the Taxation Aid Committee would go through their application process and, get the people or the residents in need and identify them. And I think, at least the way I understand it, that it will be passed on to the trust fund committee to fund those needs in the coming year. And it depends, how that committee would feel as to the level of assistance they'd be willing to give. But the end result would be the same. It would save us, let's just say they pay for 1 year of requests. It would save us that 1 year that we would have gotten from the community fund. So it's a little bit of a weird dynamic, but it works out. So I'll let, Nick's been involved with the community fund and knows some of the participants and players there. So I'll just let him expand on what I just said.
yeah, no, thanks. And is everybody familiar with the trust funds, or does it make sense to spend a minute or two just on that?
Explain them. I don't understand. I don't know.
Sure. So our committee it was basically a volunteer committee. In the year 2002 or 3, I got brought in by a guy named Jack Kelly, who's the general counsel at All America, where I used to work. And basically, there were all these gifts that were left to the town in, starting in the 1800s into the, into the 1900s in people's wills. I think there's 21 in total. And they were kind of sitting there and doing nothing. They weren't really invested appropriately, and they weren't being used for their purpose, which each will, specifies. So in summary, basically, the common thread is that all of the bequests were to help town residents who are needy. And there are some that are specific one way or the other, like around hospital bills and things, but that's a very small amount. Kind of town resident and needy is kind of the key term. So our role is to work with the money manager, Bartholomew, who manages CPA funds and other things for the town, and and help them, and kind of agree with them what the investment philosophy is going to be on them. And we talk with them once a year, sometimes more frequently, depending on what the market's doing, and then establish the protocols for how much gets given out each year, because they are intended to be perpetual. So you can't overgive and compromise the fund. But at the same time, you don't want to undergive, because because they're meant to be given. Our biggest issue over the years is that we have not had enough applicants, except for a handful of years, to really be able to give as much as, we've kind of designated, which in general is about 2% of our principal. We can do that every year and not worry about it being, at risk perpetually. So working with the Southborough Community Fund has been great because, I think our fund total is, and we're getting updated numbers, but it's probably somewhere around $800,000 or $900,000 at this point. So 2% of that is in the high teens. If they've found ways for us to use 7,500 of that, that's great, because we usually find at least 5,000 easily, and then there's applications on and off for the rest. So when this came up, this is great because this is a good amount, and for us, our screening criteria when we get an application in is, first of all, we have to establish need. And the fact that, there's already this committee who's basically kind of doing that, just like youth and family does when we deal with them, that kind of removes that burden. The other thing is that we have to make sure that somebody's actually going to be a resident. So I really like the fact that these are real estate taxes and people are going to be living in these houses. And for the most part, in many cases, the houses are paid for. The only time where there would be a conflict is if, there's somebody who's literally so in debt and, just about entering foreclosure. And, this is money that would be paid out and they're going to be out of their house anyway. But from what I understand, those situations are pretty few and far between with taxation aid. The other thing that we have done over the years, and this is not specifically written in the wills, but something that we've kind of, talked with town council, is trying to figure out ways to work with the applicants to figure out how we can find or pair them up with other resources that they need. Like some of them have never heard of youth and family, so we've paired them up with that, or, as creatively as we can. One had a national grid bill that was into the thousands of dollars, and we basically negotiated a deal directly with National Grid to pay it off at like a 40% discount. And they were super happy to get that because it was going to be a pain in the rear for them to collect the rest, because they happened to have like a sick child or something that, gave them some kind of status they didn't have to pay. So, long story short, we're pretty creative in doing that. So one thing that I don't understand very well, but I know has been something we've talked about, is that there's a program for seniors where they can defer tax payments at some point on their real estate. And, I don't know to what extent the request here is for circumstances where that can help too. But it would be really good to know kind of how, what that is, because just I don't understand it, and how that can kind of play into this whole picture.
And I'll probably get yelled at for that because I forgot to send you that. But,
Okay, well, yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. And just to add a little more color for the other members of the committee, I was contacted by Tom Crody, who is head of the Southborough Community Fund inside the Metro West Foundation this morning about our application. And he let me know that they have their window for applying, which we all just applied for our grant in the fall, it was a staggering number. They have more folks that need help than they can give. So of the grant pool that they're prepared to give out this year, they have 14 organizations asking for something like 20 different programs, and we are one of them. So they don't have enough funds this year to grant to all the folks in need, but they were trying to come up with a creative way for taxation aid to kind of backdoor into getting money, but doing it through Nick and this community fund. So just to like that you all know sort of how this evolved today. This was a direct response finally to our application. And just as an aside, something I just wanted to mention, Tom said that there's 14 residents that are on the board of the Southborough Community Fund, and none of them had heard of taxation aid. So I know that this is something we want to talk about in some of our future meetings, but it was just a good reminder that, you know, we still have a long way to go to make sure that residents who could either be potential beneficiaries of it or just who could be donating to it, that that they don't know much about it, but they were really excited about it. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. And the only concern I have, which Brian, I know you're aware of, is I wasn't sure if legally, if taxation aid could accept money from this community trust.
Well, so it's funny you bring that up. So I actually talked to town council today, very briefly, verbally. And I think the concern, if there is a concern, it would be the community fund giving a grant directly to the Taxation Aid Committee. That actually might be, you know, through, in other words, if the trust fund gave it to the community fund and the community fund then turned around and gave it to the Taxation Aid Committee, probably he didn't like that. He was a little funky about it. He was much more comfortable with, and it's going to end up as the same thing, just, you know, the same result. He's much more comfortable with the Taxation Aid Committee going through their process and then presenting these applicants to the Trust Fund Committee. You know, they're vetted, and the Trust Fund Committee basically expending those funds directly to the residents, which again, it ends up at the same point.
I see. Yep.
But that's kind of what he told me.
Sounds like
So
laundry.
how would that work with the, Nick, for your edification, this is really the first year we just finished of actually like putting out our application, receiving applicants, doing grants. So we don't have a lot of like data to work with, but like, would your group want to be part of the conversations with us about, you know, how many applicants are we giving to? What amount are we giving to? Would you want to be part of that conversation?
I think it'd be helpful to know the result of it. I don't think we have anything to add, you know, other than, you know, if there is a program where people can defer it and they're not going to get kicked out of their house. In other words, if it's a liquidity issue, right? And the liquidity issue can be solved in other means, which would be, you know, having the taxes accumulate, right, in some kind of a program. And therefore the funds can be used for those that either don't qualify for that or, you know, other needs of those people, like, you know, oil or whatever it might be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because what we want to do is we want to reduce the liquidity issue as much as possible, just because we only have finite resources too. So, you know, again, trying to figure out what's the best solution to get the most impact.
One of the issues might be that because you want to know how much money would be available, I guess, so that when our applicants come in and then you say, well, we'll give so much to each person, how would we know from the trust fund what they would be willing to supplement our funds with?
Well, I think what we need to do is come back from this meeting with, you know, basically the story to go of, you know, how it works on your end. And then we vote as a fund and we say we can give X amount, which is, you know, basically what we do with the community fund.
Okay.
And we're also in the process of, you know, reevaluating our portfolio because, you know, this is an exceptional year, obviously with COVID. In 2007 and 2008 were too, and we actually didn't get a lot of applicants, but we are set up so that, you know, during an exceptional year, we can stretch a little bit more.
Okay.
But again, you know, we just want to have a full understanding of how that kind of process works and how, you know, how your process works. So you're saying, okay, yeah, we understand you need 5,000 for your taxes, but you can go into this deferral program and you don't need to pay it. It'll, you know, when you pass one day, it'll, you know, whatever, be paid off by the sale of your house or whatever it is. You know what I mean? We just need to kind of understand that, because we don't.
Jeff, can you talk to that? Because my understanding is that our program is totally separate from that. Is that true?
Yeah, the deferment is more of an arrangement that people would make ahead of time. And I don't think they're doing that on an annual basis to say, well, you know, I can't pay my taxes this year, so I'm going to defer for this year. That's going to be more of just an ongoing permanent thing that's just going to linger, or I don't know, for lack of a better word, but until, like you said, the house sells, and then the funds would be there to pay off that deferred tax.
I have some information too, Liz and Nick, that Nick knows this, that I can send to both, you know, both groups. So obviously the information originates from actually Jeff. Oh, Jeff is a member of the Board of Assessors, Nick. So the program actually resides in the assessor's office. So so I can I can get that information and send it to you guys, the details, so you can see a little more what it is. But you've got the skeleton right. I mean, there's a lien on their house. There's an agreement to freeze the property, and the taxes just sit on the side and accumulate. It's a low interest rate. It's 4%. I think the assessors may be proposing that it actually be reduced to 2% this year at town meeting. So the interest rate is negligible. So it basically is just putting the taxes aside, and like Jeff said, at passing they'll be paid off, or the property owner does have the option of paying intermittent years, and some do, or
Yeah.
some have in the past at least, where they've gotten the program but they don't use it. You know, they have it in their back pocket. So
Right.
it's a little bit of an interesting program, but I'll send you further information on that.
And is there an age determinant or qualifier for that program?
No, right? No.
No.
Okay. So I
It
guess where,
hits a lot of people. You know, it depends on their situation. That will elect to go with a deferment like that. So age is not a factor. You know, it could just be other expenses, medical expenses that really start to, you know, that hit a family. Or I mean, we don't get a lot of these anyway in town, so it probably is a coincidence that most of them are, you know, older residents.
Right.
yeah. And is it fair to say then that anybody who owns a property in the town, you know, I'm assuming that it would be a default on a mortgage if you had a mortgage, but if you owned it outright and it wasn't a default on something which could cause a problem, they could essentially take advantage of that program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's yeah. And they do. I'm trying to recall. I know that there is qualifications. You can't just say, you know, call up and, you know, defer my taxes. I mean, there's you've got to, you know, qualify for you know, that type of a hardship.
I believe if there's a mortgage on the property, the bank has to sign off and agree to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Primary lien holder, right?
Right. Okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah, because if the loan to value is out of whack, the bank is not going to like that, because
Right.
you know, the municipal lien is going to conflict with their lien, and you know, it's never a fun day.
Yeah, and they want to hold the primary position when it comes to you know, what's owed.
Yep.
So
But it's also one of those liabilities. If you live in the town and the town has, you know, the governance, you can't really, you know, you can't kind of bankrupt your way out of it.
right.
Goes with the property. So do you, in your taxation aid, do you screen for people who are eligible to be able to do that before providing aid?
So you mean specifically for the deferred taxes?
Well, does the committee here, before they provide aid to somebody who's applied, do they screen for their ability to be able to use a deferred tax?
No, we didn't do that.
No, we
last
didn't.
year.
We
Okay.
didn't. I guess we could talk about it.
Yep.
We didn't. So our qualifications, and we can get you the application. You have to be 65 or older or disabled 5 years in Southborough and you have to own your residence, and your income can't be more than 30,000 for an individual or 60 for a household. We simplified the application, but we do ask for a copy of tax returns.
Do
But
you,
no,
And it doesn't, I'm sorry, it also doesn't clash with some of the other benefits that seniors could take advantage of through the assessor, through getting, whether it's a senior work off or other programs in town to help them out, whether it's veterans, exemptions, stuff like that.
Sure. Okay. No, that makes sense. So you have good qualifying criteria in our eyes. And then I guess the only other thing is do you look at sustainability of their living situation? So in other words, if they have 120% loan to value and another, $100,000 of debt and they're about to get evicted or foreclosed on or whatever, is that a factor?
I think, Nick, the best way to answer it is we struggled with that last year. Liz, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we
did.
really never came to a conclusion on it. It was, especially the first year, we didn't really want to, there was pressure not to really deny the people that were obvious, but, I don't know if you have more to add on that, Liz, but I think we struggled a little bit with it.
Yeah, and actually, so our committee's expanded too. So Marianne and Hal graciously joined recently after we completed our first year.
Right.
So we have we have more voices. And so I think our plan would be to talk about, just sort of make sure that we all like the way we did it the first year and see it, because you just raised some really good points. I don't know if we would end up making any changes, but certainly worth talking about. To Brian's point, I mean, we really wanted to help the applicants that applied last year.
Mhm.
Their applications were, we really wanted to. And we include, when we sent out the letter letting the folks know that were going to receive this, we also let them know that they're in some pretty, I think, direct language, this is not something you can count on every year.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
we didn't want
I didn't
the-
want to set an expectation of, oh, this is great. Here, we can
Right.
just count this every year.
Yeah. No, we do the same thing.
It's kind of funny. I think I got one person already asking about the next year, but yeah, that happens.
It was dump stickers for a while with us.
Oh, so yours sounds like a lot more of a catch-all. So how do people actually get funds from yours? How we're learning there wasn't much awareness. So Pam and the senior center helped us a ton last year in getting the word out because folks didn't know about this. How do people know about the community fund? Or the trust, I just learned about it today.
We haven't actually had any PR in the last probably 7 or 8 years, but I think it was around 2005 or 6. They did run an article in Metro West, and they ran one in the Southborough newspaper too.
Yeah.
And I think we got a little bit more volume there. It is, I think we're in the annual report every year, right, Brian?
Yep.
And we are on the website. But we haven't done a great job, honestly, in doing that. It's, youth and family is probably one of the biggest referral sources.
Okay.
We're certainly known in the senior center.
Got it.
Bill Boland is on the committee, so he knows a lot of people. So it's been a bit word of mouth that way. And then people just fill out an application, and it's literally just to screen around the things that we said. The biggest thing is just, can they sustain reasonably a living situation for the near term? And are we really doing everything we can to help?
Okay.
Would it make some sense of the future to try to put together some organization so that, if I need help, I would sort of, maybe these are the things I should try, because, I didn't know about the trust funds and I didn't know much about Taxation Aid Committee till I got onto it. And I think a lot of people probably don't even know where to turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it might make some sense for us to think in the future that we develop some sort of overriding chart or something saying, well, if this is a problem, here's where you might turn.
That's a good idea. And then who's going to own that? Because they have to be the one that somebody's going to find first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll leave it to
Right.
Brian. We'll give it to Brian.
I was thinking of
Wasn't have
Liz's
enough
dog.
I second that.
No, but that's a great point and something we should think about.
like that.
at least. Yeah. Mhm.
It's a really good point.
Yeah.
So I guess the best thing for us would be to know probably what comes out of your meeting, which is just, okay, this is kind of the applications we got, and this is kind of what we've, screened to, and this is what we want to be able to give, and here's how much money we have to give to it.
Okay.
And then obviously considering who can go into deferral and who can't, right, to kind of solve the,
Yeah.
that gap as much as possible. And I mean, the other thing too is we have the flexibility to give for other things. So if somebody is needy,
Right.
and they can go into tax deferral, and maybe they're getting $1,000 the part that they can't defer, but they can't afford their oil, we can cover. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So one of the things that we did was we put a time period. So February is the month to apply.
Okay.
So just FYI for you. So we would have we could maybe sort of plan on sometime in late March, communicating with your group, and if you'd like us to sort of come to you with like, here's what we're thinking, and now you react. That works. That works for us.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be
think-
great.
You guys agree? I think. Well, we got to. I mean, it's all new. We got to figure it out. And Brian and I were like really surprised that there were 7 applicants. Maybe there'll be 20. I don't know. So we really don't have any sense of it.
Right.
Yeah, so do you think next steps might be, well, I can swap a bunch of information for both committees, like, the deferral program, show you each application, from the other one, just to see it. And then, I think we're supposed to have a trust fund meeting next Thursday, actually. So we'd be happy to have that meeting and see if the other 2 members of that committee are willing to move forward with this a little more formally. And at least if the trust committee could give your committee, our committee, the commitment that they will support something, I think that would be good to know ahead of time.
Yeah.
It would be useful for this committee, the Taxation Aid Committee, to know, I think. So,
Yep.
maybe that's next steps.
Yeah, and then we just need to know when, when and if you need whatever it is that we were to give, kind of what, the basic use would be for. You know what I mean? Just, okay, here's how we screened it out. This, you've got the income qualifier. I know that already, but you know what I mean? Just so we can put something in the file that says this money went to this, and this is why it qualifies, and you know what I mean? That's all.
That's reasonable, I think. Does anyone have any further questions for Nick, or can we let him go finally take care of his kids and go get supper?
I'm in the office, believe it or not. I've been like the only one here, so.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
It's super helpful. I learned a lot today. I really appreciate it.
Good. Well, thanks for having me. Look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Take care.
Okay, cool. So we have some follow-up to do for him. And then do you, I'm sensitive to the time. Do you guys want to tackle some of the other things on here? Do you want to wait till next time? Other things we were going to talk about, any follow-up or feedback on the October 1st tax mailing insert?
I can take that one if you want. It's a quick one.
Sure.
So they did go out. I think Liz uncovered one little fly in the ointment, and that's that I didn't realize the printing company probably only put them in the real estate bills. I didn't want them in the water bills because the water bills, a lot of renters sometimes get them too. But
yeah.
We have 3 groups. We have the water bills, the water and real estate bills, and then the real estate bills. I think they only put them in the real estate bills. So we may have missed just a little group That's probably like it's probably like a third of them actually. So, but you know, we can always do this again. It was cheap. And, you know, I don't know. I think maybe next meeting or the meeting after I can report back as to like, did we get any revenue out of this? It's a little, because the taxes aren't due, they're not due for another 2 weeks. So a lot of them come, you know, the bulk of them come in the next 2 weeks. So then after that, I can kind of tell you that hopefully we made $1 million, but, you know, we're asking at a tough time too. So I'm keeping my expectations low.
I do have a couple questions, okay? The first thing is that on the insert, it says Senior and Disabled Taxation Fund, but when you turn it over on your tax bill, it's called the Tax Relief Fund Contribution. So
We need to fix that.
Yeah, so we need to either change one or the other just so that they match.
Yeah, the back of the tax bill is an old, I inherited it, so it must be an old.
Okay, all right, so that's the first thing. The other thing is that we pay our bill electronically. So if I wanted to add a contribution onto it, because my husband didn't do it yet, but there's probably no way that you can say, you know, I want $50 to go to whatever. So now here's the question. If you pay it electronically, you pay your taxes, and you want it to submit a contribution, can you just send a check in to the town of Southborough and just say this is a contribution to the Taxation Relief Fund?
You can.
Senior and Disabled Taxation Fund, is that what you do?
Yep, you can do that. You're right, there is a blind spot with people, especially paying through their online banking.
Right.
Because that just spits out a check that we get a remittance for. It's a simple remittance. It's nothing.
Right.
So there's no way, I don't think there's really any way of accommodating that with those, which stinks, but it's just the reality.
Yeah.
But you're right, you can send in a check separately.
Yeah, so maybe on this piece of paper, we want to mention that, you know, if you want to send in a check, you could do that, you know, because adding electronically would not.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Okay. I mean, I'm okay with that. I can't imagine anyone not. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Mhm.
In that vein, I was thinking, as I read it over, I thought that like many organizations, when they send something out with a slip like this, they leave a spot on the slip itself to check off how much you want to return. Because this one tells you to go, you know, like you, Mary Ann, if you pay it electronically, you can't do it that way. And this one tells you go to the back of your tax bill and check it off. And that's kind of a second step. I think, you know, when I get things from other organizations, historical society or something, to say, check it off right here, what you want to do. It's kind of a prompt as you're reading this to say, oh, okay, here's what I'll do. And then please enclose this slip in return. That was
good. It's a great suggestion, actually. We can add that the next time we do this. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Sounds great. Sounds great to me. I didn't get one because I didn't get one because I'm in the water bill comes with the tax bill category. That's how we figured it out.
We'll fix that next time.
We'll fix that. Okay. So something I guess I would like to put on the agenda for the next meeting is I think we should have, to Nick's point, and especially since we've expanded the number of members of the committee, I think we should have a conversation about the sort of, he worded it eloquently, but sort of the need aspect, or you know, are we a Band-Aid, or you know, sustainability, I guess was the word he used. I guess we should probably talk about that aspect of our application sometime in the next couple months. Or it's just, I guess maybe Brian and Jeff and I could like let you know what the thought process was for last time, and then maybe we could all discuss it and see how we want to improve or change it in advance of putting out the applications for February. So I don't know if we want to put that on for like the November or push that off until like January, whatever you guys want to do. But I think we should probably, there's probably a lot of room for improvement. Especially now if we're going to hopefully articulate our thought process now to this Nick and his group. I think we probably need it to be a little tighter than it was last year.
Well,
It was just the first year.
Liz, can you explain, like you had the 7 applicants and then you decided to give them each, what, $750? So how did you determine the amount, I guess? Did you say, we're going to take a certain percentage of the fund, or did you just come up with, I mean, how did you come up with the number, I guess?
Well, part of it was based on the size of the fund. So I think we knew the fund was around 30,000. So we weren't going to give out 15 because then we were like, well, we'll never be able to do this again. That wouldn't be good.
Okay.
That was part of it. And then, I don't know, Jeff and Brian, you can help with your memories, but part of it, we were very sensitive to making it equal for all. Because one of the things we had talked about was like, do we do a percentage of each person's tax bill, but we wanted we wanted like it as little gray as possible.
I'm sorry, Liz. So when
Yeah, go ahead.
when there are programs in assessors, as I was talking about the veterans or disabled, those are set numbers. It's not a percentage based on income. So the idea was let's stay along those lines as well. And then the thought process that I remember, Liz, was, we threw around a bunch of numbers. 500 seemed to be a little on the low side. 1,000 seemed to be a little on the high side. And there was no great scientific formula to come up with 750, but it was just a number that, okay, this is a meaningful amount,
right,
and it's not going to break our account for the first year, and we can always revisit and tweak the amount going forward. But that's really just the kind of the basics behind what the thinking was. It wasn't a grand formula that we devised to come up with it. I'd like to say it was, but
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of how we do with the other different funds too. And my question or my concern would be is, like you said before, if you get 20 people this year,
Right.
now you're going to have to look, and then that's, I guess justifying it is what I'm saying for the trust fund. So you have to justify why these 20 people all should get something, and then they all should get X amount of dollars. And I guess the justification is what we need to come up with, so the trust fund then can feel that they want to, help us with this program.
I think you're right, Mary Ann. My recollection is we did this on rather short notice, at least from the time I got on to the committee. I think I helped in making the decisions, but it was really short notice and we wanted to get it out to help people.
Sure.
But I think these are all important points that we should consider. In my sense, Liz, is we ought to start this in November, not put it off.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that sounds good. You're right, Jeff. I think we definitely relied heavily on your expertise with what you do with the assessors, because I didn't have any experience with any other kind of like a format. But that sounds great. Why don't we put that on for next time? And I'll put on the agenda and an update. I think we'll have one on what's going on with the community trust. Because my understanding today was the Metro West Foundation basically said no, but they didn't really say no. They said, we'd love to help you, but here's another way we're going to do it. So I don't expect to hear from them again. But I asked him if for some reason that our town council or someone says we can't take money, or if we can't figure out a way to work this, which it sounds like we can. I asked if we could apply again. He said, sure. But it doesn't sound like we would really need to. It sounds like the group that we want to be applying to or asking for help from is this community fund, which it sounds like they have the funds. It seemed that way to me from what he was saying. Like they didn't sound as strapped. So I'll put that on the agenda. We'll just sort of close the loop on that, Brian. And then what else should I know we still wanted to talk up to Cindy.
Yes. Yeah, so I thought she had a conflict, or she may have had a conflict, but then it ended up she didn't have a conflict, but it was after I knew that this meeting only has another 15 minutes to go. And I knew Nick had to come on, you know,
Okay.
he kind of had to come on tonight. So I asked Cindy if she minded just coming in the November meeting, and she doesn't mind at all. So we can count on her being at the next meeting.
And what, I can't remember what she's coming to let us know about need that they're seeing. Why, I can't remember why she's coming. Is she's giving us an update on what they're seeing?
Yeah, from the Council on Aging perspective, and you know what kind of conditions they're seeing down there, especially now, you know,
Okay.
and you know, just to give us an idea.
Yeah, she's their outreach worker. So,
Okay.
so they've been working very diligently on not just the people that they've served in the past, but they've also looked at anyone on the census that was 80 and above who maybe they have not touched base with. So they're reaching out to people that, you know, not necessarily have been, you know, past clients of theirs. So she's very, like I said, they're being very proactive with this.
Awesome. Oh, that would be good. Okay. Okay. And I guess yeah. All right. That's awesome. Anything, so that's probably enough for the next meeting. The only thing is, Marianne, I took your email with the suggestions and I sent it to Brian, who is that what you sent out today? Is that the updated?
Yeah, I finally got
Awesome.
around to making the edits, and I sent it back. So at some point we should look at that. I mean, I can't imagine the rest of the committee would have a problem with it, but they should see it and approve it if they, you know, like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that looked good. Thank you, Brian.
No, good points. Good points.
Okay, well, we're getting ourselves ready for February. So that's great. Thank you. All right. Does anybody else why don't we pick a date for our next meeting? Because I don't want to bump
Yes.
into Thanksgiving. Okay, so we do the third Wednesday of the month, which would bring us to, is that Thanksgiving? Friday for Thanksgiving?
That's the week before this,
Oh, cool. Okay.
the 18th.
How, the 18th? Okay. How does that sound to everyone? And would you like, is 4:30 okay?
That's fine.
Sure.
Doesn't
Okay.
matter to me. It's,
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'd really love 4:30 over 4. Okay,
Yeah.
Sure.
thank you. All right, and
Okay.
I guess that's it. Can I adjourn the meeting? Is there anything else we need to discuss?
I don't think so.
I think we're good. I'll just say that I'll send out some information over the next few days. Just remember, we can't talk about it. We have to hold
Yeah,
it.
I was just gonna ask you. So can I follow up and close this loop with you on the community fund thing? Like, can we do that outside of a meeting, or can we not?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One-on-one, you can do it. It's
Okay.
more than that. You get in trouble. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And is that trust fund called the Southborough Community Trust Fund?
I'm sorry, I keep saying it wrong. No, it's not. It's confusing. It's Southborough Community Fund is the fund that we applied to through Metro West.
Correct.
What is this thing called?
It's a weird name. It's the Board of Trust Fund Commissioners.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, Brian, that's what I was going to ask you. So would Nick, would they know the amount of, is this the same trust that the 30,000 is in?
Yes. Yep.
So they know how much we have in our thing. Thanks, Jeff. They
Okay, thanks.
know.
Take care.
Yeah, so they when he mentioned Bartholomew and Company, that it's a portfolio, and the taxation aid is actually in that portfolio.
They know. Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 5:17 and thank all of you for your time.
Thank you. Nice seeing everyone.
Yeah, you too. You too.
Stay well.
Take care, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.